I want to talk about these numbers because they are important and they are meaningful. We are seeing real results in the fight against crime. And since the start of the year, the stats are clear. 40% down in terms of murder, 40% down in terms of shootings are now 32% down, and major crimes are down 21%. Now, that is reason to celebrate. And all of that is not by chance, it's the result of real strong leadership, greater investments in our police force, good policies, better coordination. I mean, the intelligence capabilities of the police are immense, and we are seeing the results of that. We're also using a lot more digital technology to support real-time policing. This is a different force, and that happened because of deliberate actions. And the results we're seeing is because of good policy. Now, the Commissioner of Police has credited this turnaround to several things, and he talked a lot about the deliberate strategy and the dedication of the police officers, and we have to recognize our police officers who are in harm's way each and every day, but they continue to work and strive to bring the crime numbers down. And so, again, murders are down by 40%. The other thing I'd like to note, and this isn't a good news story, but it is something that we have to have action around. At Cabinet this Monday, we got an update on several incidents of violence against women from the Minister of National Security and our Deputy Prime Minister. He presented on a number of these instances, and he also gave an update on the investigations into those crimes. Now, the Prime Minister was very, very strong on Monday in directing the entire cabinet to do everything possible to change the legislative framework to make sure that these crimes do not go unpunished. It is very, very important, and all the ministers that were in cabinet, we received our marching orders from the Prime Minister, because this is something that we cannot allow to continue. We heard Minister Grange in Parliament this week, and she gave a very powerful and timely reminder that everybody has a role to play in eliminating violence against women. And there are too many stories. Just in the last few weeks, we had Kelsey Farragon, we had Anissa Dilworth, we had a female teacher who was attacked at school. We have the nurse that was attacked on her way to work. And these are not isolated incidents. And as Minister of Education, one of the things that I have found in my conversations with guidance counselors is them talking about our young girls in our high schools talking about sexual violence against them in the home. This is not something that is just happening here and there. This is something that's happening across our country. It is a problem. Our girls are under siege. Yes, we've seen some instances where we've seen murder, but on a daily basis, our girls are being raped. And this is not acceptable. It cannot be acceptable in our country. And we sweep it under the rug. We constantly sweep it under the rug. I remember when I was at UWI and I was teaching, every office hours, or girls who are at UWI studying, trying to make something of their lives, they'll come and they'll sit in your office and they will cry about what happened to them in their communities. It is happening way, way, way too much. And we don't like to talk about it, but it is real. And we have to talk about it if we're going to truly address the problems. And so the Prime Minister has told us that we can't stand by and have this happen and just let it be, we're just going to have some excitement about violence against women for a couple of weeks. We have to do what we can as cabinet ministers to take strong steps and to change the laws to make it clear that this kind of action is not acceptable. So off to a different topic now, in terms of something a little bit more positive, which is what I usually come with. We are about to start the hurricane season, and that leads to a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. And especially after last year with Hurricane Beryl, we can understand the anxiety that some people feel. And so the government wants to note that a lot of work has been going into preparing the country for the hurricane season. And the forecasts do predict an active hurricane season. And in light of this, we really have to be prepared. And so what the government has done, and our wonderful Minister of Finance has facilitated, is an increase in the mitigation budget from $102 million last year to $172 million this year. And some very vulnerable constituencies will actually see their allocations double based on risk assessments. Minister Morgan also noted some other special works that will be ongoing, and you will see crews around doing this work. $300 million has been allocated for cleaning the Sandy Gully and any kind of restoration work that needs to be done. $100 million for the north and south gullies in Montego Bay. $30 million has also been allocated for Bogwalk Gorge, and also another $30 million for Dyke Road in St. Catherine. $200 million has also been allocated for flood-prone areas along the south coast. So we have contractors being engaged currently, and we're pre-positioning equipment and communication systems to better be able to respond in the event of a hurricane. Now, obviously, we're all praying for a calmer situation this year, but while we pray, we also get prepared. And so we are doing the work now in order to be prepared for what may come. The last thing, or last two I will mention, is in related to security too. The Prime Minister opened Jamaica Eye Monitoring Center at Olympic Gardens Police Station. So you've seen these big decreases in murder and major crime, but we're not stopping at that. We're actually still continuing to improve, and that project cost over $100 million, and it's trying to enhance safety and deter crime in those connected areas. And this initiative in Olympic Way is a part of a bigger plan. So Cabinet has approved the installation of 2,500 cameras across the country over the next 3 years. That's 2,500 cameras across the country. And so these are going to further help our police to even better tackle crime. And so we're expecting through this that we'll be able to see even better numbers going forward. The last thing I'll note and remind everyone about is the Morant Bay Urban Center opening. That deal, even if you don't live in St. Thomas, it's a big deal for Jamaica. And I'm not just talking about the KFC being there. I'm talking about it more generally, it being a big deal. This was something that when the Prime Minister first mentioned it, people said, oh, that's all wishful thinking. And then when he broke ground, oh, it's never going to come to fruition. And look what we have. We had the opening of that huge complex in St. Thomas. What was the forgotten parish that my family is from is no longer the forgotten parish, because we have done the work. And I have to say thank you to all of the people, especially the FCJ staff, who worked really tirelessly to make this a reality. And this is government at work. This is what good governance and good government looks like. And so as I move from those wonderful good news stories, and we have so many more we can talk about, I'm going to be bringing to you this morning two of our best cabinet ministers who show you what good governance and good government is about. And the first one up is the Honorable Favor Williams, our Minister of Finance and the Public Service. Please make her welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge colleague ministers, Minister Charles from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, Senator Dana Dixon. Let me also acknowledge our permanent secretaries who are here, and of course, our Chief Education Officer, Ms. Terry-Ann Thomas Gale from the Ministry of Education, respective members of the ministries represented here this morning. I want to especially acknowledge the team from the PIOJ. I want to acknowledge our students as well and members of the media for helping us to carry the good news. And I've got to say that this week has got to be the best good news week. Starting first, the first item of good news is that the Bank of Jamaica's Monetary Policy Committee, during its meeting on May 16 and 19, 2025, unanimously agreed to reduce the policy rate, which is the rate offered to deposit-taking institutions on overnight placements with the Bank of Jamaica by 25 basis points, or think of it another way, a quarter of a percentage point from 6% to 5.7% per annum, effective yesterday, May 21st. Yes. And the second action that the Monetary Policy Committee agreed was to preserve relative stability in the foreign exchange market. You will note that the Bank of Jamaica in its press release said that the Monetary Policy Committee reaffirms its commitment to maintaining low and stable inflation and will deploy the tools necessary to preserve stability. It also said that the Bank of Jamaica will continue to carefully monitor domestic inflation expectations and any upward pressure on prices caused by the evolving tariff landscape. I just want to take a minute to present this pictorially. This is what the inflation chart looks like. It's coming up any moment now. No. All right, we'll come back to that when that chart comes up. In the meantime, I will move on to the second good news. And it's that the preliminary, okay, let's go back to the inflation charts. Okay, so you'll see a chart showing the inflation numbers. And the reason for putting that up will become evident. So the blue bars show headline inflation, or the inflation numbers that Statin reports. And they just recently reported point-to-point inflation at 5.3%. Point-to-point simply means that you're comparing inflation at a specific point in time, such as at the end of April 2025 to the same point last year, April 2024. So the yellow line that you're looking at is core inflation. And that means it's headline inflation less food and energy, which is what the Bank of Jamaica is targeting. And it is this inflation that is expected to remain within the 4 to 6% band as a policy objective. And the dotted black lines is the band in which core inflation needs to remain between 4 to 6%. Why is all this important? You know, if you go back in time, in 2021 in particular, there was a significant change that this government did. So it amended the Bank of Jamaica's Act, and it gave the Bank of Jamaica the authority to implement the inflation targeting policy. By achieving a specific inflation rate, the Bank of Jamaica helps to stabilize the economy and make it more predictable for businesses and individuals. And I want to say, for me, of all the changes that this government has done to modernize our economy, inflation targeting is the one that I am most awed by. Having lived through the 1970s, with inflation going as high as 80%, to be living in a period when we have a government with a policy for inflation to be in the range of 4 to 6%, and to experience it through the actions of the Bank of Jamaica, for me, it is simply mind-boggling. I never thought I would live to see this period in which inflation is targeted to remain in the 4 to 6%, and to be a part of a government that set this in motion. I am eternally grateful for that. So we move on now to the second good news for the week, and it is the preliminary GDP figures from PIOJ, which showed that there was growth in all except one industry for the January to March 2025 quarter. Starting with the goods producing sector, that sector increased 1% overall. And when you drill down into it, agriculture, forestry, and fishing was positive at 0.1%. And you can, well, if there were charts, you would see the significant decline in the July to September period last year because of the massive impact of Hurricane Beryl and then tropical storm. But then you would see the significant recovery going from negative 12% to a positive 0.1%. And similarly, mining and quarrying improved by 0.5%. Again, if you were able to see the charts, the same pattern impacted by the weather, but then coming out strongly out of that. Manufacturing was up 1.5%. Manufacturing, construction grew 1.5%. The construction pattern is different. It had been negative, but if you recall, during the period last year, the government spent significantly to repair schools, roads, and other buildings. So the construction industry benefited from that spend, and it's solidly positive for this most recent quarter. On the service side, electricity and water supply recovered strongly from the negative where they were. Wholesale and retail trade, repair and installation of machinery, which had been negative, is decidedly in the growth column with another quarter of positive growth. Finance and insurance services, that sector lost some momentum leading up to Beryl last year and Raphael, but remained positive during the review period, registering 1% growth. And then for hotels and restaurants, that sector felt the impact of the severe weather-related event, but rebounded strongly, up 0.8% in the January to March quarter. Of all the 8 sectors that make up the services industry, 7 were positive in the range of 0.5% to 1.8%. There was only one that had a slight negative, and that was real estate, renting, and business activities. I'm also happy to indicate that PIOJ has said that there is a 5.3% increase in airport arrivals for the month of April, which is a strong signal for the hotels and restaurant sector. And for their short-term growth expectation for the next quarter, the April to June quarter of this year, the economy is projected to grow within the range of 0.5% to 1.5%. And for the full fiscal year 2025 to 26, growth is projected within the range of 1 to 2%. And we come to the best news of the week, of the year, of the decade, and that's the reduction in the poverty rate, a massive decline from 16.7% in 2021 to 8.2% in 2023. This is the lowest since poverty rates were first measured in 1989. And if you could calculate, that was over 3 decades ago. This is really good news to celebrate. And you're going to hear from Minister Charles as well as he speaks about the minimum wage. That has had a significant impact. The increase in the minimum wage has had a significant impact in reducing the prevalence of poverty. So PIOJ said the significant reduction in poverty can be attributable to the significant improvement as well in the employed labor force. And when you look at 2021 and you compare that with what happened for 2023, a net increase, we saw a net increase of 85,600 persons being employed. That is something to celebrate as well. So if you recall where we are now, our unemployment rate is historically low at 3.7%. We continue to include more persons in the labor force. Businesses continue to need persons, and we're seeing people become gainfully employed. PIO said as well, they presented some other numbers. It talked about the rate of extreme food poverty at the national level. In 2021, that was 5.8%. When they measured it again in 2023, it was 2.8%, a significant reduction in the rate of extreme food poverty. PIOJ also said the increase in consumption was likely influenced by increases in the minimum wage. And if you'll recall, and Minister will go through this, since April of 2022, this government has been increasing the minimum wage. And the reduction in the poverty rate was evident across all geographic regions. All. There was no region in Jamaica that did not experience a reduction in the poverty rate. And lastly, there is another important figure that PIOJ presented, and it is a figure. PIOJ looked at inequality in Jamaica. It looked at the consumption-based Gini coefficient, and the Gini coefficient is really a number that quantifies the inequality of consumption within a population or a group. And the range is 0 to 1. So if you're at 0, it means that everyone is consuming the same amount. If you're at 1, it means that only one person is consuming everything. So the closer the measurement gets to 0 is an indication that equality of consumption is improving. And we saw over the period, when we compared the data in 2023 to 2021, that our consumption-based Gini coefficient showed a decrease towards 0, and that is good. Finally, regarding consumption expenditure, the data revealed that there was a 5.3% increase in real, meaning take out inflation, real average per capita consumption across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I am still processing all the good news this week, and the week is not even finished yet. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Minister, with all of that good news, all of that good economic news. And I'm going to move to our next presenter, and then we'll do questions all at the end. The Honorable Colonel Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, Minister. Of course, to the happiest Minister of Finance and Public Service that Jamaica has seen, to all of the permanent secretaries, directors, colleagues, Jamaicans, I must tell you, it is a profound honor to have the opportunity to serve this country. And I address you today, not only in my capacity as Minister of Labor and Social Security, but as a proud Jamaican who has personally witnessed the remarkable progress in this country and the positive transformation. If you are to assess Jamaica objectively, it would be difficult for you to not applaud the several positive trends. And I tell you this before I start. Just think of it. If we were to have the news of all of these percentages going in the opposite direction, it would be a riot. And we should have that same kind of energy, because Jamaica is becoming stronger, we are more stable, and our future is brighter. Yesterday, the Planning Institute of Jamaica announced, as you know, a significant decline in the national poverty prevalence from 16.7% in 2021 to 8.2% in 2023. Yes. And we acknowledge and say good morning to our most honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness. I was saying, yesterday the PIOJ announced a significant decline in the national poverty prevalence from 16.7% in 2021 to 8.2% in 2023. The 2023 poverty prevalence of 8.2% represents the lowest recorded poverty rate since the commencement of poverty measurement in Jamaica in 1989, marking a historic milestone for our nation. Notably, this substantial reduction suggests that nearly half of those below the poverty line in 2021 have successfully transitioned out of poverty by 2023, a testament to the effectiveness of our social and economic policies. Now, it is important for us to understand and appreciate the broader context in which this historic milestone has been achieved. According to the PIOJ, the decline in poverty is primarily attributed to a notable increase in consumption among the most vulnerable segments of our population, specifically the lowest 40%. That is, those who consume the least in our country increased their consumption at a combined rate of 28%. Quintile 1, which is the poorest, increased their consumption by 12% as they had more money to spend on their families. And quintile 2 increased their consumption by 16%. What then has driven this remarkable progress? Ladies and gentlemen, it is the result of prudent economic management underpinned by robust and targeted social assistance programs and initiatives provided by the government to significantly improve the socio-economic conditions of many, many Jamaicans. As I said before, this low poverty rate is not just a statistic. It is a powerful story of Jamaica's transformation, of resilience, and I dare say, of leadership. And at the heart of this, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security continues with and across government to advance targeted programs, bold policy decisions, and a relentless focus on protecting the most vulnerable in our country. The thousands of Jamaicans are moving now from struggle to stability, from survival to success. And one of the programs most critical to that is our PATH program, the program of advancement through health and education. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security, we have implemented a range of social protection programs and initiatives aimed at empowering our citizens, particularly the most vulnerable. Now, while we hold a portfolio responsibility for both labor and social protection, it is through the social protection programs that the vast majority of our clients are served. Prior to the increased consumption of our poorest citizens in 2023, there was also an average 18.5% increase in PATH benefits in 2022. And you can see the direct correlation. This increase in 2022 was preceded by a significant spend on PATH in the financial year 2020-2021 of $12 billion as part of the COVID-19 response. Through the government, we provided critical support to our most vulnerable during the pandemic and subsequently increased the value of benefits in the post-COVID period. These strategic interventions have significantly strengthened the capacity of the poor to increase their consumption levels and the quality of life. PATH beneficiaries have seen increases of 2.411 billion or 28.8%, moving the budgetary allocation from a little over 8 billion in 2023 to now almost $11 billion last year. In addition to PATH, we also have our pensioners, some of whom fall in those quintiles. And in 2023, the lowest rate for our pension benefit was increased by a whopping 74%, moving from $1,700 per week to $3,000 per week, bringing the rate more in line with the food poverty rate. In addition to the NIS pension increase, in addition to the PATH increase, we also saw the introduction of social pension in this country. And since then, in 2021, we have seen several Jamaicans who could not even think of receiving any support being considered, valued, and being assisted. By the end of the first year, which was 2021, the program had reached over 6,200 beneficiaries. Now, designed to provide critical financial support to individuals aged over 75 years old who lack any access to other forms of support, such as PATH or NIS pension. Social pension has become a vital lifeline for many, many, many senior citizens in our country. And by the end of 2023, the number of social pensioners had increased to 89%. That is over 11,700 social pensioners. You can clap. It's a good thing. Underscoring now the government's unwavering dedication to enhancing financial security and overall well-being of our most vulnerable elderly population. I tell you this, the increase of 672 million was an increase of 164.71%. I know that some of you are saying that I must be incorrect. No. We moved the budgetary allocation from 408 million in 23-24 to over 1 billion in 24-25. That's an increase of 164.71%. Now, another important program which the Ministry of Labor and Social Security utilizes to bolster support, particularly this time for the micro enterprise development, is the Steps to Work entrepreneurship grants. We have provided support for several, and among them are primarily the most economically vulnerable individuals. And we've done so by increasing expenditure on our entrepreneurship grant initiative from 44.5 million in 2020-2021 to 69.4 million in 2022-2023. And you can see the trends. If you do an analysis across the board of all of the relevant programs, you see two things happening consistently: increase and improve. This strategic investment reflects the government's commitment to expanding income-generating opportunities for vulnerable persons who traditionally face significant barriers to accessing business capital. They can't just walk into a bank and get support. They don't have all of the necessary supporting documents to get the support from certain institutions. But the government has not forgotten them. The government is providing that support, and we're seeing the results. Through this initiative, the ministry has empowered almost 500, many individuals to pursue entrepreneurship. And again, we saw an increase of 8.85 million or 46.21%, moving the budgetary allocation for grants from 19.15 million in 2023-24 to 28 million in 24-25. And I'm carrying you through so you can see the connection, the nexus between these positive outcomes and the deliberate strategic decisions and execution from the government. Now, very importantly, as you heard our minister say before, is the national minimum wage. And as you know, the minimum wage has moved from 2016 again by a whopping 158%. The minimum wage is one of the primary factors, or the movement of it, driving the positive trends. It serves as a critical social protection mechanism designed to safeguard workers from excessively low earnings. A significant proportion of our most vulnerable citizens are minimum wage earners. Many of them have directly benefited from the significant increases implemented since 2016, moving from 6,200 then to what is now 16,000. Most notably, however, and connected again to the poverty reduction that we are noting today, is a substantial increase implemented by our Prime Minister in 2023, moving from 9,000 to 13,000 in 1 year. Again, that is a 44% increase in 1 year. These recent adjustments to the minimum wage have placed more disposable income in the hands of the working poor, thereby enhancing their financial resilience and contributing to the transition of a number of individuals out of poverty. It's not happening by chance. It's happening because of calculated, deliberate, strong, sensible, effective decisions and strong execution. I want to move quickly as I close to just discuss also the unemployment rate. Unemployment and poverty are inextricably linked, as elevated levels of unemployment often result in increased poverty due to the absence of a stable income to meet basic needs. The historic decline in the poverty prevalence recorded in 2023 has coincided with a reduction in unemployment, which fell from 7.1% in 2021 to 4.3% in 2023. If this government was a student in a class, now you tell me, you'll be getting more than a 4.0 GPA. Furthermore, data from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica indicates that the employed labor force grew from 1,234,800 individuals in October 2021 to 1,320,400 in October 2023. Again, a clear indication of the expanding employment landscape in Jamaica. This growth in employment has played a critical role in reducing the risk of poverty, as more Jamaicans are now able to secure income and to improve their standard of living. Similarly, the Ministry of Labor advances our electronic labor exchange, and the ministry's labor market interventions come particularly through the ELE, which is the electronic labor exchange. And we have seen where it has reflected a notable increase again in the demand for labor. In 2023, the number of reported vacancies rose by 61% compared to 2021, signaling a rebound in labor market activity. This surge in vacancies not only provided valuable administrative insights into the pace of the labor market recovery, but also expanded access to employment opportunities for job seekers. You can see the correlation. And now I close by just indicating that the remarkable strides that we have had in terms of reducing poverty, expanding employment, and strengthening social protection are not merely statistics. They represent real improvements in the quality of lives of thousands of Jamaicans who have been impacted by these decisions. These achievements are the result of deliberate, people-centered, inclusive, and transformative policies. We want to applaud the sound economic stewardship and steadfast commitment to social equity of this government led by Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. And I want to encourage Jamaicans to continue to support and to stay positive as we together choose Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. And as I said earlier, this government is what good governance looks like. And the person behind a lot of the good governance policies, all these policies you've been hearing about this morning, is our Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, who joined us while Minister Charles was speaking. And I'm now so very happy on this morning where there's just so much good news to bring to the podium our Prime Minister. Please welcome Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness.
Thank you, Minister. I'm certain the ministers who spoke before me would have gone into much detail. My job is not to repeat the statistics and the analysis that has gone before, but I think it is important to reinforce for the nation that this massive reduction in poverty, in the prevalence and measurement of poverty, is a big deal for all Jamaicans. There are those who would want to make light of it, but I would quickly remind that were the data pointing in the other direction, much heavy weather would have been made of it. You wouldn't stop hearing all the negatives. So it is important that we accentuate this positive news. Now, there is always the issue of reconciling these statistics with the lived experience of Jamaicans. The tool that we use to measure poverty has not changed much. It is a standard tool. We have sought to ensure that our tool that we use to measure is aligned with international standards. And indeed, the methodology that we use is robust, well-tested, and aligns very well with global standards. So there can be no naysaying or criticizing the results. The results are what they are. They are robustly tested, and you can have great credibility and confidence in the results. For us, for the government that is, we were always expecting that poverty would be reduced significantly, because we have implemented what I would like to describe as instrumental policies, meaning policies that are directly crafted to treat with the specific elements of poverty. The academic perspective on poverty is that poverty has several dimensions to it. You look at the income of the person, the ability of the person to earn and consume. You look at the person's access to knowledge and information. So you're looking at their education levels and how they use that knowledge to innovate and create their economic abilities determined by that. And then you would want to also look at the person's access to amenities, access to healthcare, proper roads, things like of that nature. There are other elements, of course. You want to look at marginalization, whether or not people are actually included, this issue of inclusion in the society. Those are all metrics and measurements of poverty. And we were very focused on looking at all these dimensions. And in every single dimension, the metrics that would be used to measure, Jamaica has made substantial progress. Now, how do you reconcile these statistics with the lived experience? Now, there are always persons who will say, well, my condition is not better off. I go to the supermarket and my prices continue to rise. Well, you know, I listen to the radio and I hear people say, I don't have water in my pipe. There are still potholes in the road. I wait long when I have to go to the health center. So how is this? How does this make sense? Well, let's step back for a little bit. Minister Charles would have gone through the details about, for example, the minimum wage. Let's look at it from a practical point of view. In 2021, if you were to give the annualized minimum wage, someone would be earning about $468,000 at the minimum wage at that point in time. The poverty line then, which was assessed at the minimum level of consumption, or if you want to flip that, the minimum level of income that someone should be earning, would be about $224,000, thereabout. So someone would be considered absolutely poor if they were earning just below, at or below $224,000 yearly. So those are the persons who would be considered absolutely poor. But consider what this administration has done, which was instrumental, direct, deliberate. We increased the minimum wage by about 44%. And the minimum wage in 2023, if annualized, would be somewhere around the region of about $677,000, thereabouts. And a person would be considered absolutely poor in 2023 if they were earning at or below $270,000, thereabout. So you can see that the government took a deliberate decision to increase the minimum wage, meaning the earning capacity of the lowest wage earners in the society. So that would have increased their income and their ability to consume. And this increase was above inflation. So you would generally be better off. You'd have more income. But let's not stop at the minimum wage. The government increased the public sector salaries and wage bills significantly, the highest increase that has ever gone on in the history of Jamaica, significantly. Now, I know there are issues, there are still issues with various sector groups trying to resolve, but you can't naysay that. You can't deny that there has been a substantial increase in the public sector wage bill, significant, and that would have introduced to households more income. But Put those two aside. Say those weren't significant. What is significant, however, is the reduction in unemployment. So households that didn't have persons employed now have employed members of their household. So the household income, by virtue of that, would have also increased. Now, let's be clear. We are not here saying that we are satisfied with the wage level. No one can argue that everybody wants more pay. But yes, we're working towards that. But if you weren't working before and now you're working, you have more income. And so that has had a massive impact on the absolute poor in Jamaica. So this issue, which I've heard being said that our government focuses on trickle-down economics, meaning that we only focus on making businesses work and focusing on the high-level macro stuff. That's absolute rubbish. There could be no greater lie told on government policy than that. This administration has been the most focused on treating with the microeconomic elements of poverty, dealing with the social safety net, putting in place things like the social pension, which didn't exist before. We are now looking at unemployment insurance, didn't exist before, giving access to training in heart and all the programs that we have put in that would have enabled households to access employment. All of these are deliberate strategies, not giveaways, not wishful and fancy things to just spend, but things that make you able to earn from your labor and your talent. So we have been very instrumental, and I think that has been a critical part of the success of our program in alleviating and addressing poverty. So what it means is that there are less persons in Jamaica that could be considered absolutely poor. What is the objective now? What's the next step of the government? The next step of the government is to end absolute poverty in Jamaica. This is something that I've said before, and it is the intention. At 8%, we are within striking distance of that. We can end absolute poverty. But of course, once you reach to that point, you're going to set a different threshold, a much higher threshold. So you're in a different level now. And that's the idea. So we want to ensure that we push this poverty prevalence number way down. And then at that point, we can revise what's the new threshold for somebody to be considered living at or below the poverty line. So it's quite doable. It is within our capabilities to do it, but we must continue with the strategic policies. We must continue the training of our young people so that they can continue to work and earn from their labor and talent. We must continue to improve the social services, the access to amenities, and we must continue to ensure that our marginalized population is protected by a very effective social safety net. And in that regard, the Minister of Labor and Social Security has been tasked, and he gives us updates pretty regularly about how we're going to revise the PATH program. I get too many complaints of persons who believe that they should be on the program and are not on the program, and from those persons complaining that there are persons on the program who they know should not be on the program. So really, there has to be a review, and I know that the review is ongoing, but the efficiency of the program is also an issue as well, how people get their benefits and how timely those benefits are. So we're digitizing that process. The minister, I'm certain, will come with a further update. But we're also looking at ensuring the inclusion element for those persons who are marginalized and in vulnerable situations where they are not able in and of themselves to access these benefits. And there are many Jamaicans like that. They may be in rural areas, they may be in some inner city communities, and they are of the notion that if they present themselves to the state, they're going to be rejected, or they're going to be subject to something that might demean them. And that is absolutely not true. So what we're going to be doing is very shortly rolling out the Solidarity Program. And the Solidarity Program is designed to treat with those persons who have not gotten any of the social benefits. They are not on the social pension. They are not registered on any of the programs of PATH. They are not in HEART. So we're going to find them, and they will get their cash grant, and we will assist them in bringing them into the formal system. And that will have another major impact on addressing poverty by dealing with the exclusion element. In other words, including all the people in the population who we have not yet reached. So I just thought I'd come and share this perspective with you. Thanks for listening. God bless you, and remember to always choose Jamaica.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And Prime Minister, you have some members of the UE Guild in the audience that came to post cabinet this morning. Remember earlier we spoke about these being the lowest poverty numbers since 1989. I was 9 years old in 1989. I'm now 45 years old. But you've known good policy. That's what you've grown up with. It's very important that you listen to the history, and these ministers gave you some historical context. It's very important that you understand where Jamaica is coming from. You've been in university at a period when our economy has gone really well and where you've seen good policy. But we have to understand what went before, so that as you are doing your studies and thinking about taking up your role as leaders, that you understand where we need to go and what kind of policies will take us there. So thank you for being here with us. And I open up to Naomi.
Good morning,
One
Minister.
question? Okay, PM can take one question?
PM, can you?
Okay, he has to go.
He has to go. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Minister. Prime Minister, the ladies and gentlemen online are applauding the move, and they have asked us one quick question. So I'll take one from
Sure.
online and then one on the floor. They really just want to they pointed out online that a part of their idea of why the poverty rate decreased was a new social housing program, and certainly that the social pension that the Prime Minister alluded to. So clearly the Prime Minister has his ear to the ground, but they really wanted to get some timelines from you, Prime Minister, in terms of how soon then can we see a further evaluation to ensure that those in abject poverty would be lifted, given the new figures.
My understanding is that the survey is done routinely. The Minister, it's done yearly now. Or yeah, so you're going to see another set of results coming out shortly. So bear in mind, it's a 2-year. I think it's done yearly. My recollection is that it is done yearly. So you're going to get some results. There might be a lag, but in terms of the year that it is published for, when it is published, but it is done yearly. So you're going to see a progression in this regard, barring any epiphenomenal event such as God forbid any weather event or some unforeseen global trade crisis or commodity price shocks or something like that. But which raises a very important point. The programs that we're putting in place will continue to push the prevalence of poverty downwards. So you're going to have less persons in absolute poverty. The program that we have crafted, which is the Solidarity Program, is designed specifically for that, to pull those persons who are excluded from employment, income, education, and knowledge, and amenities, to pull them into the formal system so that they can be a formal part of the social safety net. That action alone should yield some significant results. But since you've raised the question about timeline, and I've put in the caveat, which is that we will reduce absolute poverty providing there is no supervening event, such as a global pandemic. The ability of the country to recover quickly from these kinds of external shocks is also an attributing factor to us being able to reduce poverty. So we have focused heavily on fiscal stability as a parameter of government's performance. We're looking at growth and productivity as another parameter of government performance. But what escapes the public often is the new feature of the Jamaican economy, and that is resilience, the ability to recover from shocks. Previously, when we were hit by a global recession, it took us 10 years to recover. When we were hit in 2008, 2009 by the global recession, we did not recover the level of GDP we had in 2009, 2008 until 10 years after. And that has been the case in our history. Because of good economic policy, when we were hit by COVID, within 3 years, we were able to recover. We were hit by Hurricane Beryl, and I'm certain that you're going to see, well, we have the data is out. We have recovered very quickly. So, you know, the average Jamaican should not underestimate the importance of having an economy that is not just fiscally stable, but an economy that can recover quickly. The next, as I've said, the pivot for us, the next phase, the next stage is growth. And with more growth means less poverty. So yes, we are going to push heavily to reduce poverty, right? And I've always said it, you know, like everybody else, we love the poor, but we hate poverty, and we're going to eliminate poverty from our society. Not by talk, not by wishful thinking, not by empty promises, not by beautiful speaking, but by strategic, deliberate, and instrumental policies.
Thank you. Thank you, PM.
Prime Minister, thank you, Prime Minister. Then let's just have one from the floor, and then I know the Prime Minister
Yes,
has a very packed day.
Yeah, he has to leave.
All right.
Morning, Prime Minister. Mahiri Stewart from Nationwide News here. I made note of both you and Minister Charles Jr. saying, choose Jamaica at the end of your speeches. We know that Jamaicans do have a choice to make. The general election is constitutionally due by September. Do you think achievements such as this historic low in poverty will increase your administration's chances of remaining in government after these next general elections? And if yes, why?
Thank you for that question, Mahiri.
No, the question presupposes it. Let me answer it in this way. In any other jurisdiction, in any other country, it would follow logically that the voter would reward the government. In our jurisdiction, in our country, there is always, as I've said, the need for the voter to reconcile their lived experience with the data that is provided. And we have to not take it for granted that the voter is making that reconciliation in their head. There is a very high level of cynicism, of disbelief. Even when the number is presented to the average person, the notion is don't trust what government tell you, even when it is presented. And it's not just with the statistics for the reduction in poverty. Murders are down 40-odd%. But if you were to ask people, what do you think about crime? They will tell you crime is high. Ask them another question. Have you experienced crime? They will tell you no. So, which is what we have picked up in surveys over and over again. So there is a bias in outlook. And for many years, for decades, it's natural. If for decades, the results that you have been given are negative results, that you can only be looking for crime to be rising, negatives, then you develop a negative bias. You start to look at the glass as not half full, but half empty. Our job is to change perceptions, and perceptions don't change overnight. It takes a long time, and it takes repeating over and over and over and over and over and over again. I've said it before. Jamaica is in a transformation. There is a cocoon in which we are. And once you're in that cocoon, you can't really see the movement from the caterpillar to the butterfly. It is when the butterfly emerges, you say, oh, yes, we have transformed. But ever so often, there are milestones reached in that journey of transformation. We reached one last week when we opened the Morant Bay Urban Center. I'm certain that all Jamaica would have been able to look at the Goodyear factory, which was opened in the 60s, and see what it is today. They're going to be able to see the Montego Bay Perimeter Road and see that massive transformation. And there are numerous other things that are ongoing. We are in this cocoon of transformation. So those persons who are wedded to the negative, who want to believe nothing is happening, our job is to say, hey friend, hey brethren, my brother, my sister, yo, look on all the things that we are going, man. Enough things are going. To counter those people whose job it is, and what they always try to do is to spew the negative. For me, I'm a positive thinker. I don't put negative energy into the atmosphere. You have never heard me speak negatively of anyone or anything. I try to be positive always, and I believe God has been.
This is Make We Talk Breaking News. We interrupt this program to bring a special item of news just coming into a new center. Let me do this over. I do apologize. I thought you guys wasn't hearing. Hold on. This is Make We Talk Breaking News. We interrupt this program to bring an item of news just coming into us. Up to 10 people are fairly dead after a private jet crashes into a San Diego neighborhood in a faraway ball in the United States. That's up to 10 people are dead in a private jet crash into a San Diego neighborhood in the United States. As soon as we get more news, we will pass it on to you. We interrupt this program for the special item of news. This is Make We Talk Breaking News. We interrupt this program to bring you a very special item of news just coming into us. Up to 10 people are dead after a private jet carrying people crashes into a San Diego neighborhood. Let me read that over again. Up to 10 people fairly dead after a private jet crashes into a San Diego neighborhood in a faraway ball. That's over 10 people dead as we speak. We're going to see if we can get some live coverage to bring to you, but let's rejoin the press conference over there at Jamaica House. let's go back to the press conference here, and then we'll try to figure out something here to get a live feed coming into us.
They have made formal applications for the regularization of their status. It is an interministerial process in terms of advancing the necessary assessments to determine if any sanctions or what sanctions through the Ministry of National Security, and also to identify and to advance whatever issues in terms of work permit or immigration status will be required for them to be regularized. The two things that we said that we have continued to do is, one, to make sure that the rule of law is upheld in Jamaica, and that anyone operating who is a foreign national, which is what comes under the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, does so in adherence to the law. And secondly, that we hear the Jamaicans, the hundreds and thousands. I've received letters, I've received calls, and several persons who have indicated that the gap in that space in terms of the labor market is persuading them to encourage the government to help these companies to get a space because of the affordability, reliability, and effectiveness of their service. And so we do not create any barrier. We are facilitating as best as we can. Once the law is adhered to, we are continuing to do everything we can to ensure that they can reopen as quickly as possible. And those, I can tell you that the applications are now at the Ministry of Labor and Social Security.
I'm sorry, we really are pressed for time. Can we just do, we can follow up right after, but let's just do the students, and then we really have to wrap. The ministers have to make a hard stop because of some other meetings. Or student, could you identify yourself, please?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Rajiv Bennett. I'm a member of the UA Mona Guild Council. And as myself and many of my colleagues are transitioning from the undergraduate level to the postgraduate level, and some of us may be looking to enter the world of work, our question is, what steps are being put in place by the Ministry of Education to address the issue of brain drain? Because many of us have been appealed to by overseas entities, companies, and countries. So what steps are the ministry putting in place to address the issue of brain drain and sometimes even regional retention? Because two of our colleagues here are not Jamaican citizens, they're Caribbean nationals.
All right, that's a good question. And I don't know that it's just a question for the Ministry of Education. It's a all of country question in terms of brain drain. And I think you've been here learning about policy and deliberate policy and strategies in our country. I remember when I graduated from UE, there were many opportunities overseas. I lived abroad, came back home because I wanted to be home. But so many of those who I graduated with are not in Jamaica. They chose to go overseas. But the situation never looked the way it looked now. And many of those are now returning to Jamaica and asking, my gosh, what's going on in Jamaica? I need to be there. I need to see what are the opportunities here. It's a very different time than you've ever seen. And you've heard the Prime Minister speak about the vision of Jamaica and where we want to be. And it's going to be very important that you're a part of that solution and that future. There are so many opportunities opening up for young people in business, in the tech world, in so many different areas. And so when I speak to young people, I speak about the opportunities that are here and how you can actually move up even quicker in a Jamaican context. Now we're doing much more in terms of housing. So the housing policy, and the Minister of Housing was here, who's the Prime Minister. There's a lot of work going in that area. He's looking at more housing for young people. We already have a policy where a percentage of everything that NHT builds has to go to young people under 35. And we've been doing that. We had one development in Montego Bay where it was 20-something% of the solutions went to young people under 35. So there'll be more of that kind of work. We have lots of opportunities through DBJ, through the Ministry of Labor, through many different entities, HEART, for entrepreneurship support. And so we're helping young people who want to start their own business to start a business here in Jamaica. And there are so many entities that are demanding work. You've seen the unemployment numbers in the tourism sector. There is so much work that's available in many different areas. There's so much work available. This is a different Jamaica. And the government is putting in place the policies to make crime less of a problem, to make sure that we have policies that can help your business. That's what the Ministry of Finance has been doing. The minister has been doing a lot of work there to make sure that your business can thrive in an environment of certainty that businesses in the 1980s and 1990s when I was growing up never had. And so we're setting the environment for you to come and run Jamaica. You're going to come and you're going to do big things. And so it's conversations we want to keep having. I spoke to the guild president the last time and I said, you're an advisor to me because we have to work through what policies you want. And we're listening to you. The Minister of Finance listened to you when she did the changes to student loans. It was because you asked her and she listened. And so as government, we're going to listen to you. We don't have all the answers. You know what will keep you here. And our goal is to listen to you and do what we've been doing, which is deliberately putting strategies in place that take Jamaica forward. And you need to be a part of that with us.
Minister,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I know, we're at
let
the
me,
end.
Let me
Oh.
reassure the media who have other questions. Please, the ministers will
There,
be
you
here
can
for
run out
another
with the ministers.
5 minutes, running out, but we really have to make a hard stop at
Yes.
10:28. We have 2
All
more
right.
minutes.
Thank
So
you. I just have one last thing to mention. Thank you, Minister. Before we close, there had been some discussions around increments. And this is another area where the Minister of Finance has delivered for our teachers. The Minister of Finance had said that increments would be paid by the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year. The fiscal year ends in June. So the anticipation was that increments would be paid by June. But I'm happy to note that the teachers are happy this morning and yesterday, those who saw their pay, because increments were paid 1 month early. The Ministry of Finance sent over $1 billion to pay increments to our teachers as a signal of how much value we place in these workers. And so 1 month early, we got the over $1 billion, I think it was $1.4 billion sent to the Ministry of Education so that teachers could get their increments. And this again is the Ministry of Finance saying, you know, I make a commitment and I try my best to do it, to even over deliver to our important public sector workers and especially to our teachers. So I know a lot of teachers are happy. They've been sending messages and I'm happy too that you've been able to get your increments 1 month early, thanks to our wonderful Minister of Finance, who was Minister of Education until recently. And so tomorrow is Labor Day. And I hope that you will be out in your numbers laboring. I know my daughter told me that Labor Day is supposed to be spent resting. So you know she's going to be with me out there on the road so that she understands that Labor Day is about service. And so Labor Day is about service. Our National Labor Day project will focus on refurbishing the Environmental and Research Park at Mason River in Clarendon. And there are many, many Labor Day activities across the country. This is how we as a people can continue to lift up Jamaica and make Jamaica even better. This morning you heard about good governance. Now tomorrow is all about all of us playing our role in creating the Jamaica that we all want to live in. And as we close out today, as always, I say thank you for listening, and God continue to bless this wonderful, wonderful Jamaica land that we all so much love. Thank you.
This is Make We Talk Breaking News.
We interrupt this news to bring you, we interrupt this program to bring you some news coming into us. A business jet carrying over 10 people crashes into a San Diego neighborhood in the United States. And as we're getting some news out of CNN, let's bring this to you right here now. Let's hear what they're saying.
We have some breaking news that we want to share with you. We are learning more about that small plane that has crashed into a San Diego neighborhood. Officials say about 15 homes, and now you are looking at those homes that were impacted when this plane crashed into this neighborhood. We know about 15 homes have been impacted. Look at the damage at that home and just look at that street with all the debris there that you can see as well. That appears to be a part of the plane, perhaps a door, as we are looking at this right in the middle of a local neighborhood, and it was at 6 a.m. Let's get to CNN's Polo Sandoval. This is a very early time there in San Diego when all of this happened. Certainly people at home. Do we know of any injuries or deaths at this point?
Not quite, Sarah. In the next few minutes, we do expect to hear from officials as they are expected to host a press conference to hopefully update us on what we know about this very early morning small plane crash that occurred. It's going to be just northeast of San Diego. And to your point, Sarah, these are just harrowing images where you see the charred remains of vehicles on a suburban street. And I think it's important to really just appreciate just a sense of what the potential impact here. While we wait to hear more about any potential injuries or worse, what we know at this point, coming straight from San Diego authorities, that this small plane crashed in the Murphy Canyon neighborhood. Nearby, there are a lot of military neighborhoods, according to what we're seeing and hearing from those on the ground. And we do know that as many as 15 homes, according to the assistant fire chief, may have been affected. Now, whether or not to this extent that you see here, that's yet to be determined. But when you just see what took place on this street corner alone, and these large pickup trucks and large vehicles essentially tossed around and then charred, that certainly gives you a sense of perhaps the force of this impact. Again, this was a small private plane, according to what we have heard so far, possibly a Cessna model. And we do know, again, that there was at least 3 streets that are being evacuated there. And also interesting, in the last 30 minutes, the San Diego Police Department put out a social media post asking for anybody in the neighborhood, call their non-emergency number if they smell any fuel, any sort of jet fuel, or if they see any debris at in their property. So that also gives you a sense that investigators right now are basically spanning out in all directions, trying to recover any evidence that could be telling as to what may have led to this plane crash. But again, still no word on any injuries or worse after the small plane crashed in the middle of a San Diego neighborhood very early this morning.
That small plane that crashed in a neighborhood in San Diego, a news conference with experts right now underway. Let's listen in.
I think CSU is the right fit for me because they worked with me. I was a 50-some-odd-year-old college student
who was here to give you more information. Dan Eddy, San Diego Fire. So crews arrived on scene. The initial crews that found multiple houses and cars on fire. We had reports of a plane that had crashed in the neighborhood. It was unknown whether it was a military or a private plane. When they got on scene, they initiated quick attack of the fire and upgraded this to what we call an Alert 5, which is a plane off the field, followed by a second alarm, so we had enough units on scene. We were able to work with San Diego PD, evacuate homes across the region as we came through here and evacuate everything to the south of us. We were able to knock down those fires. At this time right now, we are able to say that no one was transported from the scene. So we don't have anybody that was transported off the scene, which is great news for us on this one. Fire was knocked down. We do have one stubborn car fire that will not go out to the south of us. So if you do see little wisps of smoke behind there, that's what that's from. At this time, we're continuing to fight the fire on that car fire. Everything else is out from the homes down the way. We have multiple crews that will be on scene doing decon and investigating. FAA is also on scene, and we're working in conjunction with them and San Diego PD to ensure that everything is searched, including the homes and everything that is involved with the planes itself. We expect to be out here for 4 to 6 hours at least doing the investigation part of it until we pass it along. And then moving forward, we'll probably be here through the rest of the 24-hour period. I'm going to pass it off to Police Chief Scott Wall.
Good morning. First, I want to start by saying our heartfelt condolences to the families that are impacted by this terrible incident. From the police department side, our objectives were very simple: scene control, traffic control, and evacuations. We had officers from throughout the city that responded. We had over 50 officers that were able to get here within minutes. We started evacuating all of the homes that were impacted. We had an evacuation center up at Miller Elementary. We have close to 100 people that have been displaced and are up there. We've locked all the streets down. Essentially, Santo Road south of Arrow is still closed and will be for the next few hours and on into the day. And we're going to continue working collaboratively. I want to commend all of the first responders that were out here this morning, fire department, police department. I can't quite put words to describe what this scene looks like, but with the jet fuel going down the street and everything on fire all at once, it was pretty horrific to see. For the police officers and firefighters to run in there, start trying to evacuate people out of the way and doing anything and everything they could to try to save somebody's life is really heroic. And again, I'm going to end with saying heartfelt condolences to the families that were impacted by this. And with that, let me introduce Mayor Todd Gloria.
Thank you, Chief. I also want to extend the condolences of the city of San Diego to the passengers aboard the plane's families on the ground. We will be continuing to keep you all posted throughout the day as more information becomes available. But what I can tell you right now is that we have had an extraordinary response effort here led by San Diego Fire Rescue Department and San Diego Police Department. But what you've seen is a collaborative effort with county, state, and federal partners, as well as our partners in the community. We have representation here from the Red Cross, the San Diego Humane Society, and other key partners that are making sure that those who are impacted here on the ground have the support they need. And that's what I want to say is that our city will be supporting these families who are impacted here. They're part of the military community that makes up our city, the proud partners of our community. And we will support them for as long as it takes to make sure that we get back to good here in Tierra Sana. Appreciate it, the early communication from Navy Region Southwest and Admiral Brad Rosen, who's an extraordinary partner for our city. I also want to note Councilmember Raul Campillo is monitoring the situation very, very closely. He'll be out here later today. But we're all going to band together and make sure that the situation is buttoned up. Again, extraordinary effort by our first responders. I can't emphasize that enough. The limitation in terms of the additional damage on the ground is a direct result of their hard work, of their expertise, of their professionalism. And I think every San Diegan expresses our appreciation to these heroes who got the job done this morning. It's still a tragedy. And again, our hearts are with those who are impacted. We'll continue to be here throughout this response effort. Make sure, again, the families who are impacted, those who are not able to access their homes, are well supported until they're able to get back into their homes. That said, as I mentioned, this has been a collaborative effort. We are on military property. These are military families, military housing. And here on behalf of Navy Region Southwest is the commanding officer for Naval Base Captain Bob Healy. Captain Healy.
All right, there you heard officials in San Diego giving an update on that small plane crash in the neighborhood there. I mean, the images are just incredible. You saw homes and cars scorched from that plane crash, but they did say that no one was transported from the scene. It's still certainly a devastation there. I mean, people had to be evacuated from their homes. A lot of the members of the military, my husband lived just a mile from there when he was in the military. I mean, that is where a lot of military members live. But as you see here, first responders had to act quick this morning. There was jet fuel, they described, just going down the street. They had to put out the fires. They said there was one stubborn fire still going on right now in one of the cars, but again, no one transported from the scene.
I can only imagine what it would be like your home and all of a sudden the plane crashes. If you look at that roof destroyed. Plane.
There you have it, a plane crash in San Diego, California. Let us see if we can get some more other news into you before we go off air. But basically, is what we're hearing. There was a press conference earlier on, 5 minutes ago. Let's go to that one. Hold on for me. Let's get up here and you can see what's going on here. We don't know. It's a military neighborhood, they're saying. But let's see what's going on if we can get some other news into you before we go off air.
And other key partners that are making sure that those are the Red Cross, the San Diego Humane Society, and other key partners that are making sure that those who are impacted here on the ground have the support they need. And that's what I want to say is that our city will be supporting these families who are impacted here. They're part of the military community that makes up our city, the proud partners of our community. And we will support them for as long as it takes to make sure that we get back to good here in Tirasana. Appreciate it, the early communication from Navy Region Southwest and Admiral Brad Rosen, who's an extraordinary partner for our city. I also want to note Councilmember Raul Campillo is monitoring the situation very, very closely. He'll be out here later today. But we're all going to be band together and make sure that the situation is buttoned up. Again, extraordinary effort by our first responders. I can't emphasize that enough. The limitation in terms of the additional damage on the ground is a direct result of their hard work, of their expertise, of their professionalism. And I think every San Diegan expresses our appreciation to these heroes who got the job done this morning. It's still a tragedy. And again, our hearts are with those who are impacted. We'll continue to be here throughout this response effort. Make sure, again, the families who are impacted, those who are not able to access their homes, are well supported until they're able to get back into their homes. That said, as I mentioned, this has been a collaborative effort. We are on military property. These are military families, military housing. And here on behalf of Navy Region Southwest is the commanding officer for Naval Base San Diego, Bob Healy. Captain Healy.
Sure. Good morning, Captain Bob Healy, and as the mayor mentioned, I am the commanding officer of Naval Base San Diego with oversight of this area here in Murphy Canyon. This is one of the largest military housing units in the world. Certainly we have a lot of military families that are impacted. Again, want to send our condolences and thoughts and prayers to all of those impacted by this. Our foremost concern right now is to make sure that we have the safety of our families who reside in the neighborhood behind us. We are doing that down the street at Miller Elementary, and we really appreciate the local cooperative efforts to make sure that our military families are taken care of. So that'll be primary going forward. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone. So thank you very much.
Any questions? A point of preliminary casualty count for fire. You stated that there have been no transports. Does that mean if casualties are limited to just those on the plane, or has it just not been a full sweep yet?
No, we've done a full sweep. We're doing what's called a fob. So we go in between and we're looking at everything down the airport that we have here. There's a possible debris field all the way back behind us, all the way into here. So we're going to make sure and we do a step-by-step process of going through the housing units that we have down here. No one was transported out of the housing units. That's where I say we were lucky in that fact that no one from those homes was injured that we've had so far. We had some possible minor injuries, but no one was transported from the scene from any of the housing units. All the fatalities right now look to be that they're from the plane. We're working with the FAA right now to find out how many actual people were registered on that plane. We'll have more information for that here shortly when we get those numbers. But everything that's a fatality right now appears to be from the plane itself.
Can you tell us how many more than one fatality?
Yes, there are more than one fatality that we've found so far, but we're waiting to get the registered numbers that were on the plane itself.
Two things. It was a commercial. What kind of plane?
It was a private plane. So a private plane, and it was registered out of the Midwest is where the flight originated from, is what we have. We're still getting the final information on it.
And how many people was it able to carry?
The plane itself, I believe, holds 8 to 10 people with the pilot included. But at this time, we don't know how many people were actually registered on the plane.
Any communication from the pilot?
We don't have anything on the communication from the pilot.
Was the Montgomery Tower open at the time, overnight?
I believe so, but that's something that the FAA can answer for you. I don't know on that one. On the fire side, I don't know.
But we know of no communication last minute from the pilot of the plane.
I don't have any communication from FAA on that one, if they were coming through on that one. On the fire side, we arrived on scene and found the plane into the sides of the houses over here.
Are we going to be able to hear from somebody with the FAA?
Yeah, later on, we'll have somebody that'll come with the FAA. We wanted to come right now and give you the best information that we could at the start here, and then we'll get someone over here to give you more information.
Updated numbers on damaged homes.
At this time right now, that's what we're doing the fob and walking through on it. I can tell you that there are multiple homes, upwards of 10 homes that are affected. Also, when it hit the street, as the jet fuel went down, it took out every single car that was on both sides of the street on fire. So if you saw the scene, I know some of you had some images from earlier, you could see that every single car was burning down both sides of the street. And so that's something that we're going to have to look at too. That's why you have the wisps of smoke, because we have one car fire that just will not go out no matter what we put on it right now.
Any of them was destroyed?
There is multiple homes that are destroyed, yes. So
I had a question because I was down there at the scene and you saw the one on the corner with a collapsed roof. Is Is that the most significant?
That's the most significant impacted house, is the one on the far east side of that street. That's the most impacted. We are doing that walkthrough right now for looking at multiple items. One, damage to the homes. We're also looking for parts of that plane because it'll be part of the investigation as we go through, right? And then we're also looking for victims.
You say no one was transported from the homes.
Yeah.
Miraculously.
Yes.
Is it possible some of those, and I know this is very early, were vacant?
It could be that homes were vacant, but at the same time, too, our fires crews did a phenomenal job of doing primary and secondary searches. The way that works for us is we have one crew search the entire home. A secondary crew comes in after them, searches it again. Now that we've had daylight, we're also flying our UAS, which is our drone. So our drone is getting flown overhead, too, to make sure that there's no damage on top of these homes or anyone there either.
Have any of the residents been able to tell you how in the world they survived in terms of your people?
I believe that some of our people ran into residents when they were coming out. I don't have any of the updates on that.
There you have it.
This is Mecwi Talk Breaking News.
There you have it. A small business plane carrying at least 10 people crashes in a San Diego neighborhood in the United States. We're also having some breaking news out here in Jamaica, where opposition spokesperson health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, is facing a possibility of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit should he not apologize for Thursday and withdraw his speech at a main conference held at the PNP headquarters. I'll read that again. Opposition spokesperson health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, is facing a possibility of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit should he not apologize for Thursday's press conference at the PNP headquarters over a medical drill. So that's the news coming into us. They want Dr. Dawes to apologize.
This is Mecwi Talk Breaking News.
Out of Jamaica, opposition spokesperson health Dr. Alfred Dawes is facing a possibility of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit should he not apologize and withdraw from allegation he made at a media conference early this week. And the multi-million-dollar lawsuit is coming from the Jamaica Labour Party MP Williams is threatening to sue Dr. Alfred Dawes. There you have it, over a multi-million-dollar drill. And based on what we're hearing, the drill may cost less or may cost more. We're doing our investigation over here too about the actual price of the drill. But based on what we're hearing now, the observers reporting that opposition spokesperson health Dr. Alfred Dawes is facing a possibility of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit should he not apologize for Thursday and withdraw allegation he made at a media conference early this week. The multi-million-dollar lawsuit is coming from Member of Parliament of the Jamaica Labour Party MP Williams. That's news coming into us. And also, a small business jet crashes into a San Diego neighborhood in the United States. This has been an extended coverage of Jamaica House press conference and also of other news coming into our news center here on the Mecwi Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel.
This is Mecwi Talk Breaking News.
I want to say thank you all for joining us. May God bless you. May God bless our island home, Jamaica land we love. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.
This is Mecwi Talk Breaking News.
rough and this life just seems so tough. Make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.
This is Make We Talk breaking news. This is Make We Talk breaking news.